guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have an incredibly interesting man come to speak with me to expose one of Australia's biggest cover-ups in history. If you like what you see, don't forget to like and subscribe and press the little bell icon so that you can be the first to know when I have new videos coming out. So, Charles, welcome. Thank you for joining me all the way from Australia today. Can you give us a little bit of an introduction to you? Who are you? What do you do for a living? Yeah, take it away.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Alex, I've chosen tonight's the night. As we've got riots down here in Australia with lockdowns, I'll tell you where my story begins here in Australia. And it begins in 1976. I arrived almost like a little boy lost. I arrived here right after my 4th birthday from good old England. I'm from Scottish and Welsh background. And we had a background here in Australia as well through a Scottish great-grandfather of mine. His story right behind me.
Wow.
He helped establish the Australian Navy. His name was John Mackenzie. And so I came out here in 76 with my mother, and she was a single parent. And we came out here in less than ideal situations. So we're very happy to have this wonderful country of Australia, which I am Australian. And I accepted this country as my home, and I've got fantastic friends here. The people are absolutely brilliant in every way. They really are. I'm not just saying that; it's the absolute truth. But what's happened is that I say little boy lost in a way, because what happened is that I bumped into a scandal down here, and it turns out to be Australia's deadliest ever medical scandal. And it also has links all the way back to England, and it's been a cover-up that's been going on for 30 plus years. There's been thousands of deaths. There are thousands of infections right now. There's people in Australia. There's a massive group of us, and there's no help. There's no counselling. There's nothing, because billions of dollars rest on people. If people find out, if your viewers watching find out about us at Infected Blood Australia and share this interview tonight, it literally could lead to massive changes in public health, not just in Australia, but in the UK as well. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been an activist. I've been fighting this deadly scandal. I've worked with activists in Canada, in Ireland, in the UK. I've worked with people all around the world. And I've been fighting contaminated blood, which is Australia's deadliest medical scandal. Thousands of Australians were infected by the blood supply in the years before the 2000s from contaminated blood transfusions and contaminated blood products. I, unfortunately, was one of those people, and that's where my story exposing Australia's deadliest medical scandal begins. And what happened was that I was a kid. I was told by a doctor to take a medication. He saw I had a couple of spots. He told me to take some medication. Stupidly, I trusted the doctor. And next thing you know, my bone marrow failed. I ended up getting the same disease as the boy in the bubble, if you know about that, the kid that had to stay inside his bubble. I think John Travolta played him in a TV movie in America in the 1970s. Mm-hmm. I became that kid. And the next thing you know, I ended up bumping into other kids and knowing other children who were reliant on blood products like I was. And many of these children had a bleeding disorder called haemophilia. There was a kid who went to my school, and he received a contaminated blood product. He developed AIDS. And I hadn't used blood products at that time. When this kid first had it, that's when I realised, wow, there's a thing called AIDS in the blood supply. Anyway, that little boy died in 1989, and I've been fighting to expose Australia's deadliest medical scandal with links to the UK ever since.
Wow, so it's a long-term battle that you've been carrying out here. How many other people are involved in the exposure?
Well, I mean, you mean in terms of how many people are involved as victims, or how many people are involved in fighting this?
You give me both answers. Yeah, how many victims have there been, and how many people are within your organisation that are helping to expose this?
Okay, well, we have thousands and thousands of victims, but very few Australians even know about this, and that's for a good reason. Mm-hmm. Australia created its first $100 billion company. I think the latest share market capitalisation is they're worth about 110 billion. And as a result, they don't want anything to happen to that company, because if you guys out there in the world knew what they did to us, they'd lose billions and billions of dollars. So what they've been doing is they've been choking us out. And they control, as you know, today, the mainstream media with the pharmaceutical advertising money. They don't want stories like ours, sour grapes about how the pharmaceutical industry knowingly provided thousands of people with, things like tainted blood products, not just in Australia, but in the United Kingdom, in Canada, in Ireland, in America. The contaminated blood scandal was a global scandal. Now, the absolute amazing thing on top of that, I've got to say, is you've got an inquiry going into this same scandal right now in the UK. It's Britain's largest ever legal inquiry. It's called the Infected Blood Inquiry. And there was a legal inquiry in Canada, and there was one in Ireland, and there was one right in England, and it's found incredible wrongdoing, right?
Okay.
Why is Australia the only country that won't help its contaminated blood victims? These are people who are infected with deadly viruses, survivors and people who lost loved ones 30 plus years ago. Why won't they help? They'll never help.
So you're saying that none of the victims received any form of compensation for the damages?
The people with bleeding disorders, the haemophiliacs, they have had 1,750 innocent patients. These are people who didn't even need this treatment to survive, this blood product called Factor VIII, okay? Mm-hmm. Now this, I don't know if now's the moment you want me to go into the background of this product and how it came here and how the British connected, but let me just say this, 1,750 Australians who not all of them needed this thing to survive. It was a treatment used for bruising and things like that. They could have gone without it, and they weren't warned. And what happened was, it came out here in 1978. We've got a population of haemophiliacs at that time of about 2,400 or so, approximation, right? Or 2,200. Not all of them are going to use blood products. And this blood product, Factor VIII, it came to Australia and it infected 1,750 or 90% of the population of haemophiliacs with HIV and hepatitis C. Now, just like in the UK, there were some very paltry and disgusting payments in the early 90s for those people who had got HIV, but then they were made to sign waivers that meant they couldn't get any help for any other further things that might happen, but they weren't told about the risks of this deadly hepatitis C virus. And so as a result, we've had 1,400 deaths here in Australia. There's no help. And they're waiting for I get told every day by our group, haemophiliacs in the group, they're just waiting for us all to die out, waiting for all the haemophiliacs to die out. And I never ever said that before, but today I'm saying that's what they're doing. They're trying to choke us out. And it's all to do with this company and billions of dollars.
And are you allowed to say what company that this all kind of stemmed from, or is there legalities around that? Yeah.
And the company is they're Australia's first $100 billion company, and they were actually originally called Commonwealth Serum Laboratories. They were government owned, and they have links to the United Kingdom. Now, what happened was that incredibly, this Commonwealth Serum Laboratories, it began life in the beginnings of the 20th century to make battlefield vaccines and so forth and things like that for Australia's wartime efforts. Mm-hmm. It also then went on to make anti-venems. It was an arm of government, a small arm of government, make anti-venems and things like that. So certainly not a multi-billion-dollar sort of corporate exercise. But then something changes. And in the 1960s, they start talking about profits and losses. Seems odd. And they start getting into the vaccine business a bit more. They start distributing a hepatitis B vaccine. There's plans to do that. And then they start announcing the development of this blood product. In 1978, they're going to make this blood product Factor VIII for people with bleeding disorder haemophilia. And that's been the driver of their global business. They're the biggest blood products company in the world, bar none. And they're paying immigrants now. Just recently, they were exploiting illegal immigrants in America who are desperate for money. They're going in their blood centres. If you could imagine Dracula from Transylvania, mm-hmm. When you're a kid, you think that's frightening, and I certainly did. But let me tell you something. The thing that I found out was that this is a Dracula factory that makes Transylvania look pathetic. This is like of the most unbelievable practice and the biggest cover-up ever. I've been told by people, criminologists, various people. My lawyers know this. I've got a brilliant lawyer in the United Kingdom. His name's Michael Imperato. He's a great man. He helped force, actually, the largest inquiry in British history, this infected blood inquiry. And I've had some crazy things happen. And I've been told by some people, if I keep asking the questions about this Australian haemophilia issue and this CSL issue, I'll lose my life.
Wow. So do you have any idea of how they contaminated these products in the first place? Was that done through bioengineering, or was this done by blood donation?
Thank you for asking that, Alex, because it's actually really important that people out there learn this. This is a blood product that, as I said, it's being used, right, by people with this bleeding disorder, haemophilia. These are not people who've been in an accident. You know, it's not a blood transfusion, right?
Yeah.
So these people aren't going to die by and large. And actually, what you have is you have people who are choosing to have haemophilia kids because they were told, you know, we've got this fantastic wonder drug, this factor VIII, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happened is that they've taken this in good faith, and this wonder drug, this factor VIII, it actually come from overseas. The concept of it, the protocols of it, and for us in Australia, guess where it came from? It came from the United Kingdom. So we've now discovered at this infected blood inquiry that's ongoing now in England that authorities there knew that this is a blood product. It's a mass pool blood product, right? This is donated. People donate plasma, blood plasma, and it can be made up from thousands of different donors. They donate this factor VIII that's missing in these haemophiliacs' blood, right? Mm-hmm. It's factor VIII put into this product. And the British authorities knew that this product was harming patients in 1974, okay? Right. They knew that there were children who had fibrosis on their livers, fibrosis, liver damage, in 1974. But what they did, and this is mainstream public knowledge now, they chose to play down the risk to children and other patients because they didn't want to damage the reputation of this medicine. And so, like fools here in Australia, we believe the British were, you know, operated with decency and the rule of law, and they sold us the worst lemon in the world. And I'll tell you what, when this interview's over, us and our group, we're keeping with our plan. Our plan is to come to your government. You've killed our friends down here, and we mean business. That government, they didn't tell us that this thing was tainted. It came down here to Australia, and parents accepted this wonderful gift from the UK, these new protocols. They even sent their doctors down. You sent your British doctors down. And so we believe these posh English doctors, and they put this product into children. We now know that they knowingly allowed children to be injected with HIV and hepatitis C. And the blood donors, where did they get it from? Oh, this company, Commonwealth Serum Laboratories, or now known as CSL. Yeah, they told parents and they told haemophiliacs that the blood was sourced for 100% voluntarily donated Australian blood. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't true. It was mixed. They actually mixed blood from Southeast Asia, and they mixed it together in a vat. What they did was they exploited unhealthy donors, and they were exploited in Southeast Asia. And these weren't voluntary donors. They hadn't had background checks, healthy checks, any of that. And they brought that in, and we've got whistleblowers who said they opened a bag up in their plant in Melbourne, and they threw this blood plasma in, and they mixed it into this vat. And now we have evidence that they could have heat-treated it. They know that they could have heat-treated it to kill off the HIV, to kill off the hepatitis C. They knew that they could, but they didn't want to do that because in the big vat that they're using, making this blood product in, they might lose a little bit of yield, right? If they heated it. And so they didn't want that because that would hurt their profits. And so they said, no, let's not do that. It would just, it would be too costly. And so they knowingly delivered that product, and it was full of HIV and full of hepatitis, man. And I've seen hundreds of people. I've known so many people that have died because of this company. And guess what? Just to tell you just how amazing this story is and how horrifying it is, there's a reason you've never heard about us. We've been locked down here for decades. I've got other victims, Alex, who talk to you, haemophiliacs, like a great man called Greg Ball, who's desperate to tell the UK, the British government has a case to answer down here, guys. Seriously, they've killed people. I know the English people haven't. They'd never want that for us ever. We're very close. I was born in England. But there's a debt to answer down here to Australia. And when the other thing that they did also with this blood product, Alex, was they said that they used, safe donors and reliable, and they employed best practice, best science advice, they said. Well, they didn't. They actually had a secretive gay blood donor program at a time when it was not advisable to target the gay community for blood donation.
Well, within the height of the HIV crisis, wasn't it? That they were actually advertising, and you have the evidence of this, that I would love for you to show us, so that my viewers can see, that they were actively going out to seek infected blood. It's not just like they got infected blood and they didn't do anything to cleanse those donations. That there is a publication Charles is holding. It's aimed at the gay community.
Yeah, and you can see that I've got a lot of friends in the gay community. I used to actually, for interest, work in a gay gym, and actually I was as a young man, I was trained to be a salesman, and the best sales trade I ever met was a wonderful man called Sean Bridgman. I owe him a debt to this day. So there's nothing in this Sydney. In some of the editions, it's a bit like a boys' mag. I've got to be honest. It's a bit like a boy. Like imagine if you're looking at I don't know, a Playboy or something of the time, maybe, but a bit more than that. And so you've got here, there is a gay pornographic bookstore that was quite famous as well. It's also there was a bar there called Taxi Club, very famous. There is a men's brothel type, very famous, very, very famous, that one, the Triple K Club. So that was a meeting ground for many gay men in the 80s. And here is a blood donation ad, okay? And they also advise in this ad, and I'll give copies for your viewers later, they can go and have a look, that they have mobile blood donor mobiles that can come to you. And here are some escort services. And the newspaper, of course, has all the things that you want as a gay man, where to get a date, all that sort of stuff, and parties, and some risque humour, just like Playboy would have. But here's the thing. They knew, or medical authorities knew, that you wouldn't target the gay community for blood donation, just like you wouldn't go to, say, prisons to target prisoners for blood donation, or high-risk donors like that. Why is that? Well, they knew that hepatitis was actually endemic in those communities at that time, and it was. And so what happened was, for example, the gay community at that time, the concern was a virus like hepatitis B being a real problem in that community at that time, you see. So it was well understood that you would never, ever target them for blood donation. And that's why they did it. For the very reason that you'd never do it, bizarrely, is the reason they did it. Because you know what? They're recruiting. This gay blood donor program was all about the development of a vaccine. Okay, and their blood they used to make products for haemophiliacs. But this is the plasma. These vaccines in the 1980s were plasma-based. Okay, not like today, they were more recombinant-based, non-blood. But in that day, this Hep B vax that they were making, and this Merck company, this American pharmaceutical giant, is down here in Australia. My God, using and abusing our voluntary blood donation system with the Australian Red Cross, no less, a humanitarian agency, and then recruiting these people. Why? Because they're trying to get their hepatitis B antigens. Why? Because they want to collect it to make this hepatitis B vaccine that they're developing. You see? Mm-hmm. So what's happened is, while they're doing that, this is going on, by the way, in America and in San Francisco and New York. It's quite controversial. You can look it up. I think the Hep B vax. But they were never, ever using blood donation. Oh, my goodness, no. They were doing things like asking men to be part of a trial who participated in VD clinics and sexual clinics and so on. But this was insanity. They were actually going out there. And what we now realise is these guys actually hit an iceberg. No wonder this has been covered up, because they hit an iceberg big time, because we now know that, I think it came out just recently in the Infected Blood Inquiry, that at the same time in the UK, around about 1983-84, when the first case of AIDS through the blood supply is starting to get known about, that it rose faster in Sydney and in Melbourne potentially than it did in the UK with a far larger population. I think the population of the United Kingdom at the time of the 80s was maybe 50 million. Australia was maybe, I think, 13 million or something. And yet we had HIV rising faster in our blood supply. More haemophiliacs were getting it quicker. More blood transfusion victims were getting it quicker. And now we know why. What idiots. What idiots. And then they blamed the gay community. Then in a move that's like out of a CIA movie. I can't believe it.
Oh, so they advertised to get blood from the gay community, and then when it all came to a head, they then blamed the gay community.
Yes, wow. They did. And it's like, you know what they did? As a result, Alex, one thing that we can do all together, people in Britain, in Australia, we, I think that's abhorrent. I actually had my mum had a gay friend in the 1980s, and he was a good friend. I didn't know him that well, but my mum did, and I knew of him. And I know I was very upset because he had AIDS, and when he was dying, my mum would visit him, and when he was dying in his bed, reckless little idiot children were throwing rocks at his windows, saying "die," and screaming abuse. And I thought, God, he's in that desperate situation and hearing such awful stuff, right? Mm. And so that brought it home to me that there was a lot of confusion, a lot of unnecessary, awful stuff that went on. And I thought to myself, so I've got friends who've died of AIDS who are kids who got this blood product. I've had friends who had acquired it through other means, such as drug use or such as through intercourse. And, you've got the virus, you've got the virus. We're human beings. It's exactly the same. We need to get the best outcomes for anybody in that situation. And yet we've had this extraordinary cover-up. And yet we've had the authorities saying, well, initially they basically said, well, promiscuous gays should not donate blood. Well, the Australian community, in this fear of, all the fear-mongering about AIDS, perhaps the media acting reprehensibly, they start thinking, well, hold on here. Why are gays promiscuous, and why are they wanting to donate blood? What on earth? Why would you want to do such a thing? And so it led, in some ways, I think, to the rise of gay bashing. And this is the Red Cross that sold these people out. They recruited them. The evidence is here. And the next thing you know, they're saying promiscuous gays should not donate and la la la. No wonder gays protested outside the Red Cross in Australia in the early 80s, and they said, they were wrong to do that. People didn't understand. They were protesting because they've been, in my opinion, unfairly. And then so they demonised, the authorities demonised the gay community, then they demonised the tainted blood community, and then they dared suggest that tainted blood victims discriminated against victims from the other communities, something I'd never seen, that never happened. And the hope there was to set group on group so that they could sail away with the fact that some multi-billion-dollar vaccine had been developed in Australia using our voluntary blood donation system.
Wow. I mean, it all runs so deep, and I think, like you said, the UK government have a lot to answer for, and not just with Australia. There's many nations that will probably need some answers from our government for many different things. But this is something, like you said, there's been children affected by this and that have died. There's thousands and thousands of people. So I would really like to see these inquiries, make some good ground, and see some results, because people have been sentenced to a life sentence of, death. That it's a death sentence.
And not be able to get insurance, and not be able to get the acknowledgement that they need, and not be able to even pay the bills.
Yeah.
If there's any documentary filmmakers out there, Australia's first $100 billion company and now the world's biggest blood products company, they've got a major case to answer. This is an incredible documentary. It really is.
Yeah. And Charles, you yourself have been affected by donated blood as well, hadn't you?
I have. As I mentioned earlier, I had this disease, which was bone marrow failure. I had a disease called aplastic anemia that I became this boy in the bubble type scenario. And I was dependent on blood products because my bone marrow wouldn't work. It wouldn't make red cells. It wouldn't make platelets. It wouldn't make white cells. I had the whole gamut, right? And in those days, back in the 80s, a lot of people died within 3 months, basically. 80% of people died within 3 months of the diagnosis. So I was in desperate trouble. And what happened was I was dependent on blood. And I had never had a blood transfusion, right? And this is the 1988. I've just acquired this bone marrow failure. But I knew this kid at school, this kid, Martin, and he had been a haemophiliac. And what had happened was he got AIDS as a result of HIV. He developed AIDS, and he'd just been given this blood product for some bruising on a knee, right? So you'd think the government would help him. You'd think the government, because this was a new and terrifying disease at the time, so it was very expensive to manage the home help, the nursing, all of the things that parents would need. This kid was 11, and you know what? They didn't help him. Oh, no. They didn't do a thing. They basically stonewalled and just treated him appallingly. They made an example of him. And I never forgot that. I had a knowing where I went, something's wrong. So when it was my turn to have blood, I have to tell you now, even before I had the blood, I knew I was going to be infected no matter what they said. Not because I've read any fancy pants medical book at that time, but because I had a knowing. And that knowing was this. Anyone that would treat a child like that was no good. And they cannot be trusted. And you know what? That knowing has got me everywhere today, and it's got me everywhere in exposing this scandal. If you treat a child like that, there's something wrong. And by goodness was I right. So I had a platelet bag. I used to have 3 a week. And it was past its use-by date, so it had no therapeutic benefit to me, and it transfused hepatitis C. And I knew I'd get it, and I told the doctors, I said, I want to get tested for it, I want to get tested. And they said, no, you'll have to, you're crazy, basically. You've got hypochondria. So I basically went outside of the hospital and went and got tested privately because I knew. And I just had a knowing. And yeah, sure enough, boom. It was 1991. I knew I had it. And this is years before everyone else found out they had theirs because the government had not alerted people, still haven't today down here properly. And so there you go.
And what effects has that left you with long term? Like, how has that affected your life and your health throughout these years?
Well, obviously, it's had a big effect in lots of ways. I was I got to remember, I was a young bloke when this happened. I knew it happened to me. I was only just 16. And they just said I was crazy. But I knew I'd been infected. Okay, I was very ill. And over the years, ups and downs, in all different sort of crazy ways. You can't quite, is this an illness? What is this? What's happening to me? Feeling very nauseous. But by and large, I've coped pretty well with it, right, for many, many years. And so as a result, I had a knowing not to trust certain medicines, not all medicines, just certain ones. And so in the early 90s, during the 90s and early 2000s, they were all putting us on a supposed potential cure for Hep C, which was a horrible drug that we now know to be a horrible drug called interferon. And that's another story in itself. It's like tainted blood all over again, and it just ruined people here, right? Pharmaceuticals, again, ruined victims. So you get ruined twice, 3 times, 4 times, it just never stops. It's your worst nightmare, right? It really is. So what happened was I'm watching this happen to people that I knew, and I just went, you know what? I just went, okay, Lord on high, or, take me, as I won't abuse, I'll get on with it, but I don't think I'll take their drugs. And as a result, I was fitter than the other people. And so there were smarter people, bigger people. There was a very famous author, Australia's biggest selling author, Bryce Courtenay. He pushed a bit. He did a good job. He'd lost a son to haemophilia. He wrote the bestseller, Power of One, very inspiring books. We've had some big heroes in our group, but eventually it was left to me, and I've been here, and I've taken the reins, and I was able to do it for many years. Unfortunately, and I find this ironic, but unfortunately, I also didn't like my opponents, the government here, to ever know that they got me. But in recent years, unfortunately, it's the first time I've ever said it. I spoke to you earlier, just before we started, Alex, that I have a condition, it's fibromyalgia. And so as a result, my hands, I drop things all the time. I'm finding my muscles lose power. A bit like mad cow's disease. And I'm a medicinal cannabis patient. It's the first time I mentioned this. And that actually seems to get the power through to my muscles. And so then they'll walk without me being, bandy-legged, and I look like a normal person. So for all intents and purposes, people think I'm normal. But I can't always be putting it into my system. And when I'm not putting it in my system, I can't walk, I can't go to the toilet, I can't do all these things. So that's how it's affected me. It's made me a cripple in a sense.
Wow. I'm really sorry that, that you've had to do all of this and go through all of this.
Yeah, I also fix on top of it, and even though I didn't know it was coming, I've done very, very well for many, many years.
Yeah.
And lots of friends who've died. So I've known lots and lots and lots of people died. I've had lots of final conversations with people who've passed away. They're beautiful people. I love them dearly, and it affects. It does get to you. So unfortunately, I did develop PTSD. Actually, that was in 2008. I was on a holiday. Can you believe it? To watch the Asian Soccer Cup with a couple of mates, and I didn't know what was going on. It's the truth. And the first time I took a break from all the pain. Can you believe it? Yeah. And this worst thing happened. Boom, PTSD when you didn't know it was going to happen. So it took me years to sort of get control of the steering wheel of that one. Because don't underestimate anyone out there. Whew. And then I've now found out that fibromyalgia comes as a sort of a knock-on effect or part of it. I don't know. There's probably veterans or people who've been through worse than me who are more expert than me. But yeah, that's how it's affected me. And it's right throughout our group, by the way. That's the other surprise. Our group is, hundreds of victims, survivors, and their loved ones. But we've got PTSD
throughout. Wow. And any help being offered for that?
No.
No.
Not a thing. There's no counselling. There's no services. There's nothing. This is incredible. It's the 21st century. They don't want anybody to know about us. And so we're not on the radar. For example, there's no list. Have a look, guys, for yourself. Please, go and look on the internet and have a look to see any list that says in Australia how many contaminated blood victims that the government would ever put forward. There's even lists about numbers of haemophiliacs have been infected in different countries: Canada, Ireland, France, Germany, England, Wales, Scotland, Japan. Australia doesn't exist, not even on the radar. And you know why that is? Money. Australia's biggest company, $100 billion company, they would be worth 0 cents if people found out the truth about them. Okay, naught. They got privatised in 1994, and they knew that they had just infected every single haemophiliac that took their product with Hep C. They knew. It's in their documents. They knew. It can't be lawful. That privatisation cannot be lawful. It's a government agency, and they did not warn those people that they had infected them. We had kids that developed cirrhosis as adults, and they weren't told. They've ruined their lives, and they're worth $100 billion. Former public servants made $200 million, and they're playing Rockefeller. I'm not saying, just for their lawyers at CSL, hi, how you going? I'm not saying that, he's involved in that. He came after the fact to rape decisions, but people knew that these people had been infected and they didn't warn them, and they get privatised, and then they get indemnified. This is why we can't get help. British haemophiliacs at least get financial assistance, and soon they'll have compensation. But victims of British malfeasance, this factor VIII, these British haemophilia protocols and treatments, they've abandoned their victims in Australia because the government here indemnified.
Yeah, and this is something that has completely been kept hush-hush in England as well. I mean, the medical inquiry that is being carried out here, I didn't know about. So this is something that they're very much trying to keep quiet all over the place, because then if we learn about the English one, then we know about the Australian one, and then we can put, everyone can put their efforts into helping those victims in Australia. So it has very much been kept under the radar across the board. So what are the steps that you guys have taken, or the steps that we can take to help bring this to light? What have you guys, who have you been in contact with about this? Just give us a little bit of background on that.
Well, okay, thanks, Alex. I do appreciate that question, because if any are watching tonight, you can do us a favour down here. Our Australian victims of this haemophilia, this bleeding disorder, these survivors, we've only got, I have to say, a couple of hundred survivors left who are in our group. These are right through those numbers of people, 200 people, that they have families. Okay, they've lost their homes. Many of them were professionals. We've got people in the group, hardworking people who lost millions of dollars. Can you believe it? They had 100 people they were managing, big commercial painters and builders and just hardworking people. And because they were persuaded to take this blood product, this treatment that came from the UK with this British protocols, the British lied about it in 1974. If they had not lied, our guys down here would never have taken your British protocols and your British treatment. So they took this thing I didn't need. And now because they're inconvenient victims to the world's biggest blood plasma and vaccine maker, CSL, they're not on the radar, and the government down here will do nothing. They'll allow no counselling. Won't even speak up in Parliament. Our Shadow Health Minister recently sent us a letter. His name's Mark Butler, Shadow Health Minister of Australia, and he said it is an injustice, but Parliament moves very, very slowly, and I can't do anything, right? And then
the Health Minister said that he couldn't do anything about...
The Shadow Health Minister, right? The Mark Butler, yeah, he said, it is an injustice, but the wheels of the Parliament move very slowly, right? Most of this stuff happened 30 years ago, and it moves very slowly. And then the other day, he calls for a royal commission, a legal inquiry into the government's handling of COVID-19. That started 2 years ago. Taint of blood, which they're guilty of, happened 30 years ago, and the wheels of justice move very slowly. The reason he doesn't want to say anything is CSL own Australia, okay? Me even saying this to you tonight puts me in absolute jeopardy. I'm not joking. This is not hyperbole. I don't want them to, I'm not going to give them any problems. I'm here just to get help for my friends. We've got people with cancer right throughout the group. What you can do to help is share this. Please share this interview. This is Australia's deadliest medical scandal. It was caused by the British lying about this blood product. There's billions involved. We think there's corruption that's linked from the UK to Australia, okay? And now, we've got people dying. We can't get any help, and that's because no one wants to acknowledge them, okay? We can't get any mainstream media because, again, they're frightened to tell this story. So what we need to do is share this everywhere. If there's anyone that likes making documentaries or wants to make one, hello, we're here for you. And that's what you could do to help. And you can also go to infectedbloodaustralia.com. If you're in Australia, you can fill out our form supporting a Royal Commission inquiry into our deadliest medical scandal. And if you're in the UK, you can write to the Australian, Australia House, and tell them that the cover-up's over, man. The English know that, and I was born in England, and I'd love to come back there one day when this nightmare's over. And I've got a long-lost relative over there, and that person's a victim of this. They don't know that yet, Alex. And we all lost. We all lost so many people. With people who've lost loved ones, there's people who lost kids. We had people who got taken away from loved ones because of the same. And people lost touch. Or some, I'm not one of those, but, there were people that happened to. But in my case, just illness separated me from someone that I would love to have known. And believe me when I say that. So we're very motivated. I thank you for having me on this interview, Alex. I've been waiting. I'm originally from England. As I say, I'm a little boy lost. I feel like I'm down a well 12,000 miles, but I've got these great friends in Australia, and they can't get help because it's an embarrassment to the Australia's, darling of the stock market. And it's like a Charles Dickens novel of the 21st century, that anyone could be so cruel to do this to these wonderful people. And Alex, we've got haemophiliacs, like a wonderful man called Greg Ball. He'd be delighted to talk to you or anyone else in the UK and just say, look, come on, guys, we make good TV. You like Neighbours and Home and Away. In fact, guess what? We've got Carla Bonner, who is a big-time star of Neighbours. Just to let you know that this has touched everybody. It's not just people with a bleeding disorder. It's people also. We've had tens of thousands of Australians have been infected with hepatitis C who get no help from blood transfusions. And they don't want to help them either or let anyone know about that because CSL, they fed off this blood. So they didn't want them screening and doing all of that stuff because it would have meant less blood for this, massive vampiric type company. And so they're part of this too. And so until you guys in the UK pull down this iron curtain, this cover up from us, Carla Bonner, she was affected. She lost her father. We want answers. We want answers to that. How did that happen? Her father died of AIDS. He got that from a blood transfusion. How did that happen? We need to. You can't just. Everyone's lost relatives. In fact, there's no answers. This is decades later. We deserve answers.
Yeah, I think answers is the least that you guys deserve. So I really, really urge everyone to share this message as far and as wide as you possibly can, because, like Charles said, there has been thousands affected, from children to adults, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters. People have lost people that they love because of this absolute scandal, and I just hope that we can come to a place where you guys receive some form of compensation, or at least the company is shut down and has, comes to some form of justice with what they've done. So, Charles, would you say that the whole motive behind doing this was to basically infect people and then go on to sell them more drugs to profit off them further for the rest of their lives?
There might be people out there that might have a view like that. That's definitely not me. Mm-hmm. I promise people, when it comes to this issue, I'm going to tell the truth as we found it. And what I think it is purely, it was like the Wild West. Imagine if you had like a new fantastic internet service and, everyone loves it, 5G, 6G, whatever it's called, and the companies are making billions, and it's a bonanza that is low cost to them. It's just basically this new technology costs them probably, $1 million a year, and it's bringing in hundreds of millions, right? No one wants the party to stop. And so what's happened is they've basically done this factor 8 product that should never have been used in the way it was. They knew back then, for goodness sake, and this is why they demonised the gay community. This is a scandal of CSL and the Red Cross. And you know what? To you, that CSL, to do that. I just want to show you a hero of mine. Bless him.
Yeah, let me see.
John Westland. This is he's from the AIDS Action Committee. He's a gay man, an Australian gay man in 1984. When everyone was abusing him. There's an article that I'll share, Alex, with you later. It's called Family Team Using Fear Tactics. Here it is right here from 1984 in the Australian press, where he tries to tell people, that these conservative Christians or whatever, no offence to them, but at that time, some of them were misguided, not everyone, that they were trying to blame the gay community as being reckless. And he said, no, they were recruiting us for this vaccine development, this hepatitis B vaccine program. He said as soon as the gay blood donation ban came in, you can actually chart exactly, in the article, you can chart exactly the loss of donations, right? And they lost in Sydney, the gay blood donor program accounted for something like 7% of the actual total stock of Australia's blood supply. Okay, now that was 7% that had been recruited for this vaccine development program. Do you know, no other blood system in the world did this. No, we went looking. No blood bank in the world. They knew not to. It was mad. We think the World Health Organization are involved. I think they are. I think this is some sort of vaccine development. I think Australians have been used as guinea pigs. And this man, this hero, pointed it out while being abused in 1984. And I think of him and I think, would I have the strength? Because I've been in some tough situations with this, I can tell you. Oh, Christ, I've been surrounded. I got spat on once with a group of women who were infected through childbirth, through contaminated blood transfusions, protesting outside the Red Cross 20 years ago. But this guy, with all of those people thinking that gays were to blame for beginning the contaminated blood scandal when they'd actually been recruited and, in my opinion, unfairly maligned and are deserving of an apology. So we need your help, UK. Terrible wrongs have happened here. Let's get to the bottom of this. And let me just say this. On the issue of compensation, look, we need answers, but people need money to live. There's people right now who are absolutely in poverty while dealing with cancer at the same time. And the other thing, too, is what we need to do, guys, seriously, is we can't have this. This isn't healthcare. No. We need to make sure that this never happens again. I mean, look, before they ran those ads for blood donors in the gay newspapers, they printed articles the year before in 1981 about this new disease, which we came to know as HIV, that was afflicting young gay men. It's here. And the next thing you know, they start advertising for blood donors, and then for 30 years they say, well, we can't help haemophiliacs in Australia because we had a little look at investigation using all of our friends, and it said best science advice was used. Oh, yes, best science advice. And so on that basis, with haemophiliacs with the CSL being indemnified. There'll be no help whatsoever for haemophiliacs. And we had hundreds of them die in poverty and in haste because they were being choked out. They were being murdered. This is the worst cover-up in our history. I could be murdered for telling you this. I'm totally sane, but I'm desperate for these families.
Thank you so much, Charles. Your strength and your drive with this is very, very inspiring, and the amount of effort that you're putting in for not just yourself, but for the whole community of you that have been affected. I just want to send you my love and my appreciation for doing what you're doing, and I want you to know that I'm backing this all the way, and I want this to be exposed now just as much as you do. So I'm just asking my viewers to please share this story, start talking about this, write letters to our government here in the UK to let people know that we know about this, and these people need answers, because what they have been through is disgusting, no less than disgusting. And I mean, I'm not shocked by the government and the pharmaceutical companies, but the fact that you have 30 years on no answers, not even a response from your health ministers, it's disgusting. So please, guys, let's do everything that we can to help support Charles.
Can I just leave with one thing, Alex?
Yes.
Because it's a godsend, or I don't know if it's the wrong thing to say, but it's a wonderful thing. Thank you. Okay, thank you. It's like, imagine if you've just opened up message in a bottle. It's come from a long way away. Okay, message in a bottle. You just opened it tonight, Alex. I thank you so much. I say this for everyone. Right now, there's a push to have children of 12 and 15. Now, look, I'm not going to get into the vaccination issue other than say this. Please, guys, that's not a good idea. They're trying to do that in Australia. That's tainted blood all over again. That's what happened to these kids with haemophilia. Let's not allow that. And let's use this as our battle. Let's use Australia's contaminated blood scandal and the UK's infected blood scandal. Sorry, I nearly said a swear word. I didn't mean. But anyway, I think people understand. But let's use this. They almost as a referendum to say, excuse me, guys, is it healthcare when you knowingly harm children? Are we harming people with healthcare today? Are we? Are we basically, being used in a way by pharmaceutical companies to make money instead of really caring about us? Is safety paramount in healthcare today? Enough. If it cost me my life, I want the safety of public health to be paramount. And I'm sorry if that upsets a pharmaceutical company or two, but it's the way it is. Thank you, Alex.
And what you've just said there, all of those questions definitely should have be raised in everybody's brains with what you have exposed to us today. They really should question, things that are going on at the minute with the pushes towards the vaccines in children. Definitely, I stand with you on that.
Please just don't be, if whatever your decision, I respect you, whatever your decision, I really do. And I've got, all I'm saying is, if you feel pushed or things seem a bit too easy, or, I've got to tell you, just have that pause, because I have to say this. When I initially found out with haemophiliacs, they were told about this wonder drug for some bruising. And they were just pushed to, this is what you do, this is the protocol, it's come from England, this wonderful process. They could have done without it. And they just took it, they trusted blindly in the system, right? Okay, so what I'm saying is just think about it, because if it goes wrong, don't be afraid. But if it goes wrong, they've indemnified it. You'll end up like us.
The facts that they've dropped in, they've got blanket coverage with their, when it comes to liability. They have no liability, so you really have to question how safe it is if they're not willing to accept liability.
The irony is CSL are making the AstraZeneca vaccine that millions of Australians are now expected to take. They have a duty of candour. I'm not suggesting that it means that this latest thing that they're making is somehow tainted. But what I'm saying is, would we be happy flying a plane if the airline was lying about 10 aircraft that killed 1,400 people and not providing the black box? This is shameful. How is it lawful that they never answer questions? We've got haemophiliacs who've written to them and said, could you tell me, I've got a batch number. Could you do, as part of your duty, a look back to see if it's contaminated. They don't even answer the question, they evade, and they just say what a marvellous company they are today. It's shameful. Our ABC, our nation's public broadcaster, they won't even run this story for fear of this company.
Well, if they won't run it, then we'll just have to blow it up on the internet and, make it unavoidable for them. So yeah, it's our only option, with a lot of things these days. So yeah, the more people that know about this, the better. So remember, guys, please share this. Thank you so much, Charles, for giving your time up today to talk to me about this. You're a very incredible person with a lovely energy, and I really hope that you achieve everything that you want to achieve with this journey, and get the answers that you so greatly deserve. Thank you.
I've enjoyed meeting you, and I tell you what, I do find it interesting that you have a sort of, an understanding, a sort of knowing, and that helps you with your investigations, because yes. I've had that. It's always had this knowing that just to go looking in certain places because something about this ain't right. When they wouldn't help a kid in the 1980s dying of AIDS, I knew something's wrong down here. Thank you very much.
Knowing, psychic abilities there, Charles. Yeah, maybe that's what drew us together.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.